Hey, so I just wanted to cover a paradigm shift that I'm making here. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but a shift in patterns. I'd like to try to encapsulate the business logic of this solution in a separate file, an API file, if you will. So changes that can be made to the database that don't require a user interface should be made in this database, in this file, invoice underscore API. And there are some advantages to this. One, a lot of these things we do in other windows anyway. Like we want to create a new record in another table, we go to another window. So this kind of gives us the ability to do that. So that's what this file is for. And I started doing that for the major interactions with the locations submodule. We can create a new location, edit and delete a new location, and make a location the default. Editing, of course, still kind of takes place in this file because it has a UI. Now, if there is logic that can be snipped out and shipped over to the other file, then it should be, but I'm not going to, I don't know where the dividing line exactly falls, but so for right now, if you can write scripts that don't have a UI, then they belong in the other file. And that's what we're going to do. So the basic pattern looks like, so for example, looking at the default script, that does call a script in this file, and that script wraps whatever messaging or so it calls set as default location here, and that guy modules purchasing, where's inventory, locations, here it is, locations, set as default. So it really just calls this, the API script, and then it updates the UI. It does what it needs to in the user interface here to make the results available to the user. But the heavy lifting, which is almost none in this case, is done in the other file. And so if we look at new location is the one that's the most interesting. So this works. We get a new record. We get a new one. We can save that. If we have a new record there. Now how that works again is we're creating a new location. It goes and it creates a new record in the API file and handles the errors if there are any. And then what it does is, since this is using a virtual list, it has to add the new ID that comes back to the data variable, and then it updates that, and then refreshes, and then it scrolls to the right record, and then it pops up the window, which is the editing API or the editing window that pops up here. So the heavy lifting is done over there, and the way I would like to do that editing is through relationships. So if we look at Invoice API, there's a table called transactions that you can use to start basing edits off of, and it's on this layout. And so this here is just a locations a portal to locations based on an ID field in the transactions and a locations table here. And this, of course, is set to allow create. So what this lets us do is create, edit, and delete any record in the locations table, and by extension, any record in any table in the database. So if we look at new location, for example, it does some error trapping. It creates a transaction record to batch the edits. In this case, we really don't need that because we're not editing multiple records, but I wrote it anyway as a template. So we start the transaction, which creates a record in the transactions table, and then in this case, since we're creating a new location, we clear the transactions ID, the global ID field here, and then we set it, trap for errors. Basically, all this is essentially just packaging the results and committing the record. So what's nice about this is easily extended to multiple records and multiple tables in the database, all batched under a single transaction. and then we return back the results, which includes error code equal to 0, so we can check that later, and we get our stuff. So this will be where we do edits, deletes, changes like that, and I'd like to do it again on basically all in one layout. There's actually a potential for abstracting this to being very, very generic, as long as you have a portal named appropriately. You're gonna need to name your portals. You can again update, edit, and delete any record in the database, and you could do it transactionally, which is nice. So I'll have some more information and some more tasks for you to do, but again, this is just an overview on how I'd like to approach building out APIs for this system. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.